Good morning. Hope your coffee's hot because you're back here for another morning of B Cube Sunday morning. Tom Whitmore is here and he's going to tell us all about what's going on with his guests. But before I uh, turn it over to him and resist the urge to steal his thunder by introducing his guests for him, I just wanted to tell you guys we got a new book coming. This is the proof. This is Scott's Planet. Yeah. It is the one we've been talking about. The world gets abandoned by where the corporations find out that they can make a lot of money building colony ships and sending them all out. And then somebody finds out that they don't make any money once the colony is established and has to support them. So they say tough luck to a lot of the colonists. And this answers this question of for those far flung future science fiction epics of where did all these lost colonies everybody's discovering come from? You know? Well, easy. They got abandoned once somebody found they couldn't make any money off of them. Sounds familiar? Welcome to America. I am now going to suspend my political rants, suspend the uh, plugging of the new book, and say, Tom, what do you got for us today?
Well, because the World Science Fiction Convention is going to be here in Seattle next week, I got a couple of the people who are working on it. I have the head of the exhibits division, which has all sorts of interesting stuff to show people, and the head of one of the exhibits, which is about the 1961 Worldcon in Seattle. And we're going to talk a lot about what goes into making the sausage that you see um, at the convention, and why we do it and what it is we do. And those of you who've been around listening to this for a while know that I chaired the World Science Fiction Convention in 2002. So I've got a little bit of a background about this. But there are new people coming up who want to do it. There are new people who enjoy it. And I want to talk with them about what they enjoy, why they do it, and where the enthusiasm comes from.
Well, then, Tom, with that much enthusiasm, I feel my circuits would become fried. So I'm going to let you do it.
Thank you. All right. So I'll allow each of you to introduce yourself and say what it is you're doing. Michelle, would you like to go first since you're the senior person here?
Oh, sure, I'd be glad to. Hi, my name's Michelle Morrell. I'm the division head for exhibits for Seattle WorldCon, which is basically 100,000 square feet of goodness in the Summit Convention Center. Includes a dealer's room, the fan tables, the art show, special exhibits, on, the cantina, the food, crafting, freebies, fanzines, and so on.
Okay. And Mary, you have a specific exhibit that you're working with.
Yeah, I'm Mary Caroline Cummings, and I'm curating the special exhibit on CCon 1961, which is the only time WorldCon has been held in Seattle before.
Previous.
So yeah.
So, but you work with the history of science fiction in your day job.
I teach writing at UC Riverside. And yeah, I often teach science fiction. But UC Riverside has the Eaton Collection of Science Fiction and Fantasy. And I don't work for the Eaton Collection, but it's one of the, biggest collections of science fiction anywhere. We've got, specific to CCon, Buzz and Eleanor Busby, the famous Seattle fans
and writer.
Yeah. Yeah. So Paul and Karen Anderson have their collection there. Bruce Pels, J.K. Klein, the sort of legendary photographer who took photos of
conventions for decades.
Con, yeah. He donated, I think it was 65,000 negatives to the Eaton collection. And there are 6,000 of them digitized and online now. So all kinds of stuff there.
And there was a crowdfunding or a crowdsourcing effort to get all the people in those photographs identified by having fans look at them and identify who people were, which is a really cool thing if you think about it.
Yeah. And really important, because as someone who's been looking at photographs for the last 2 months, it's been it's tough. If you don't
I
have
did a certain
there, I had luckily Ruth Berman, who was an attendee in 1961. She lives in Minnesota, and so I was emailing back and forth with her, and I would send her this banquet photo of CCON. I was like, who are these people? It's just a bunch of little faces. So she was able to identify some people in that one.
Yeah. Yes, well, I wasn't going to conventions in 61. I was only 8. So I couldn't help with that particular thing. But Ruth's been around for a long time and was also very active in Star Trek fandom.
Yeah.
Later on. One of the items that I'm going to be on at the convention is a panel on fan history. Our current plan, that's going to happen on Wednesday afternoon. And our current plan is to have the 4 people who are on that panel really talk about why we got into fan history. And that means we're all going to be talking about stories, because the stories about what happened and the fun things that happened are what got all of us interested in doing this. And therefore, we're going to make new stories. The whole exhibits area is designed to help people make new stories about what they're doing. What's your story, Michelle, about how you got into working on conventions?
Oh, well, I started just going to NorwestCon as a muggle, basically, and immediately felt like I found my people. And what I said is it's a community of people that don't like you in spite of your oddities. They like you because of your oddities. And that was always a lovely place. And then I made the mistake of volunteering in Reg. And the next thing you know, I'm on the exec team and running member services. And then I was the secretary for a while. So I just happened to be in the right place at the right time with the right people, and heard, hey, we want to bring a Worldcon to Seattle. Do you want to be part of it? And I was like, ooh, yes, what can I do? And they said, take your pick. And I was like, ooh, something fun. And that was 3 years of my life. So tomorrow is when it all begins in the convention center at 8 a.m. and we start loading in. It's been a ride. Also, my very first Worldcon was ShyCon, and that was actually a week before Keith, who was in charge of the virtual program, was casting around for room hosts. And I said, oh yeah, I mean, I can do that. And so a week later, I spent 3 days in an amazing amount of panels I never would have chosen for myself.
Yes.
Spectacular. I had the most amazing time. And that is actually where I met Karen. I was the room host for one of her panels. And that's where I got my Worldcon triggered, and here I am.
Yes, well, there have been 5 ShyCons. Which ShyCon was it?
Oh, okay, the last one. The most recent.
Yes, that would be ShyCon 5 then.
Okay.
The history of fandom is really kind of amazing, and there are all sorts of resources out there that'll help people find it out, but you have to know to want to look.
Yeah. I think about what Mary's doing here, and the stuff that we are doing this next week. Maybe that's going to be somebody's history display 80 years from now. You know, the little the little cross-stitch kits I made, and the little pillows that we have, and the stickers, and all of that might be in a locked display case.
Hold on to everything. Yeah. We can donate everything to the Eaton, so that those things can be found in 60 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. No, it's there are all sorts of interesting bits of history. I mean, one of the things that I've done over the years is try to save some of the history. I have a bunch of files from the 1964 Worldcon because one of the people who ran it died, and I grabbed them out of his filing cabinet when we were helping sell off his books. So the original receipt for the registered letter sent to Walter Breen telling him he wasn't welcome to come to the convention.
Interesting. Wow.
Which makes for all sorts of interesting stories. And there are a whole bunch of stories about the Breen Doggle, as it's called, where I know the background that no one else has seen because nobody's read the letters.
Wow.
But, Mary, what got you into being involved in the history?
This is actually my first journey into fan history because I was working on this souvenir book. I was part of that team, and I just had a tiny little role in the souvenir book. But Ella Kleiger, who is the editor of the souvenir book, which if you haven't seen it yet, it's freaking amazing. It looks so incredible. But she was looking for a photo for the souvenir book of something. And she said, "Oh, I think this is in the Eaton collection. Isn't that where you teach? Don't you teach at UC Riverside?" "Oh, yeah." And I said, "Oh, I'll stop by the library and just see if I can find it." And I didn't find the photo she wanted, but I found all kinds of other interesting things in the boxes that I was going through. I think it was the Busby boxes. I was looking through right at the beginning. And I took pictures of things and I was texting them to her. I was like, "Look at this cool stuff." Like, I think, one of the things, this is a replica of the badge. See if I can get in there without the light, of Buzz Busby for his 1961 CCon badge. So she said, "Wow, you're finding so much cool stuff. Why don't you do an exhibit?" And then I think we called Michelle. And
it's shocking how much you have gotten done in 8 weeks. It's amazing.
Summer break, man. Summer break. That's all I've been doing. Yeah.
No, it sounds like it's a great archive to go through.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's really kind of overwhelming because there are just boxes and boxes and boxes. There were, I think the Bruce Pell's boxes, there were like 80 boxes or something like that. And the librarian came out and said, "You told us you wanted to look at the Bruce Pell's boxes, but we're not bringing out all 80 of them. So and it was just filled with fanzines."
Bruce's fanzine collection filled 6 filing cabinets, 4-drawer filing cabinets, and they were all alphabetized. Bruce is one of the reasons I am as active in fandom as I am. As I said, we're going to be talking in terms of fan history about the stories, and Bruce was the source of stories for most of the people on that panel. He was an incredible active fan who did just about everything. And I could spend the entire talk time we have telling Bruce Pell's stories because he was that kind of guy. I was fortunate that I was one of the people that he cultivated to get into fandom. When I was going to chair the Worldcon, I asked him if he'd ever thought that I would chair a Worldcon, and he said yes from the beginning. Which is kind of bizarre to think about.
Well, I now have mad respect for anybody who takes that job on. It is amazing.
It's a fascinating job because it is both more and less work than you think. One of the first things that you have to learn, which you have clearly learned, Michelle, is how to delegate. How do you let somebody take over something and not try to basically make it your own, make it look like what you want, but to have a vision that will inspire people to keep going. And you've clearly inspired Mary to keep going with what she's doing.
A little bit of back and forth.
Yeah. But you know enough about management now.
Oh yeah.
In terms of fandom, to know how to do that.
Yeah. I've said that I pretty much got my master's degree in event planning throughout this last 3 years. I don't have a degree to show it, but I have so much more knowledge.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And the most basic knowledge is to learn who you can trust.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge one.
Mhm.
I've been super blessed to have a really good teams under me. A lot of it were people that I worked with before at NorwestCon, so I knew I could trust them. I knew we
Mhm.
worked together, we had the same vision.
Mhm.
Because I came into this with some parameters. I said it's really important to me that we highlight the best of Pacific Northwest fandom, and that we do our best to bring in underrepresented voices. So it was important to me that the people could sign on to that and then go with it. And I knew that everything was in good hands. I have an amazing second, Alex Demboski, who has supported me the whole way. I never would have gotten this far without her. And then,
Mhm.
like I said, all the teams underneath me. The only team I could not find was special exhibits. So I did have to take that on myself. And that has been a lot. So
Mhm.
I do wish I had found a good special exhibits team, but alas, just me.
Well, that is another important thing about learning how to do this, is learning when you can let go and when you can't.
Yeah. And stepping in to fill the holes too. I mean, we
Mhm.
never could find someone to do layouts. So I taught myself Visio, and by God, I did all the layouts
Mhm.
because you can't not do it.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, I can see that there is the wall of badges behind you, as there is behind me.
Yeah, agreed. I do like the ribbons. Guilty as charged. I'm one of the ones that I'm like, okay, I'll stop when it hits the floor. But I'm short, right? So I should get like a little bit of an allocation, an extra. So,
Yes, I tend to enjoy the ribbons too, but I've gotten to the point where I don't necessarily need to have them all. These are somewhere in here. Yes, these are the leftover ribbons from the promotions division at Sasquan,
nice.
and I've got a complete set of the ribbons from Con Jose, which was the one I chaired. Basically, they make up 5 complete sets and give them to the chairs and the Worldcon history exhibit,
Nice.
all of that, so that there are copies out there.
Excellent. I try to keep, because I also produce ribbons like for the NorwestCon Little Free Library. We always have a themed ribbon.
Mhm.
And stuff.
Yeah.
And so I do have a stash, like my 20-year stash
Mhm.
of ribbons that I can keep.
So how long have you been doing this?
Me,
Yep.
I believe this is my 16th year at NorwestCon, but I've only been volunteering, I think, for 10. So.
Okay. Yeah. I started volunteering at my first convention. Kept it up ever since. I have much more fun when I volunteer at a convention.
Yeah,
Just
agreed.
attending gets boring to me. I'm now at a point where I know an awful lot of people.
Yeah.
And, I'm continually having to balance the time with people and the time, you know, being helping out on panels and things like that. But um, it's so much more fun to have
It is.
something to do and to learn how to work with other people.
Yeah, because you do have all sorts of archetypes of people, and
Mhm.
it's not like in a corporation or something where you can sort of choose your coworkers. It's all the people
Mhm.
that have chosen to give back.
Mhm.
But we do tend to have the common goal of putting on the best convention we can, which helps.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was chairing Con Jose, there was an attempt to they hold a vote of confidence on me chairing, and I ended up being given a co-chair. But we discovered that we both had really the same vision for the convention,
Excellent.
and people would, if what we needed to have the convention we got was him being declared a co-chair, then I'm totally happy with it. There's a place where I've had to learn to let go of being in control or taking all the credit or anything like that. And you clearly learned that too, Michelle, hearing you talk about your second. And Mary, I'm sure you'll be learning it in terms of this because you're getting all sorts of stuff from all sorts of people. Like you got in touch with me about bringing along the Who Killed Science Fiction, which was the scarcest Hugo winner, being only 125 copies.
Wow.
Mhm.
You know,
Do you want to explain what Earl Kemp did to
well, what Earl Kemp
together?
was a fascinating person in fandom. He's one of the few people I know who's been jailed for free speech issues. He was involved with various publishers of what was at the time considered pornography, including the Illustrated President's Commission Report on Obscenity and Pornography, the illustrated version, which they couldn't get that for being pornographic, but they did get the advertising for it in the advertising flyer that they set out, which just had a bunch of pictures from it. And he was convicted and went to jail for it. But he was involved with publishing a fanzine called Safari for the Spectator Amateur Press Society, or SAPS. And he decided he wanted to do an annual, and this was in 1961, or 1959 rather. He started collecting the stuff and wrote to a whole bunch of people and said, the science fiction, people are saying science fiction short stories are dead. You know, I'm going to ask 5 questions, and we're going to collect all the information from everybody about why they think this is true or why they think it isn't true, and what we should do about it. And he wrote to just about everybody who was anybody in science fiction, and got 91 people to respond. One of the anonymous number one, the first respondent was Robert Heinlein, who later said that he would have loved to have been credited, even though he never wrote for fanzines because he believed he was a professional writer and should get paid. But Kurt Vonnegut is in there, Ted Sturgeon, Alfie Bester, you know, pretty much everybody who was anybody in the science fiction field. And it's a fascinating volume. It's available on efanzines.com if you want to read the copies, along with comments from a few later people like David Gerald, who is a regular on this show. And it's a really fascinating volume. Earl was, you know, there are so many stories about fans. And one of the things I learned as a high school student was to hate history. Because I had teachers who insisted it was all memorizing dates, memorizing the names of people, memorizing things. And eventually I found out that as fans out of the LA area, Greg Chalfin used to say, history is just folks doing stuff. And if we can go and find out what it was actually like for those people, we realize that what we are doing right now is making history. We create it. Some people will be lucky to be known for it later, but the ones who aren't known are almost always just as fascinating as the ones who are. And this is part of why I love doing things like this. And as a volunteer, I get to do things like at LACon, we were doing a children's group, children's activities. And one of the things that they had was a replica of the Ark of the Covenant from Raiders of the Lost Ark. And so I'm going through the back corridors of the hotel, pushing this Ark, a big wheeled cart. All of a sudden, I start whistling the Indiana Jones theme. So, you don't get experiences like that if you don't volunteer.
Yeah, so much of the history that I've been really fascinated by has just been the personal stories of people who were at CCon, and because everybody wrote these con reports, and just like, slowly I've been kind of collecting them, and you see different things that happen from different people's perspectives. Like, there was this one moment where Karen Anderson was turned away from the dining hall of the Hyatt House Hotel in Seattle where CCon was held because she wasn't dressed appropriately. She was wearing tights. And
This is Karen K. Anderson, not Karen
yes,
D.
right,
Anderson, who is
exactly, yeah,
part
Paul
of the show.
Anderson's wife, Karen
Yes.
Anderson.
There are stories about the two of them getting confused, which
Yeah,
I'll tell you. I'll tell it another time.
I'm sure. But yeah, so Karen was wearing a cape, and she said, "Oh, I'll take this cape and make it into a dress." But Jenny Heinlein was with her, and Jenny got so annoyed at the maitre d' of the Hyatt House Hotel that Jenny grabbed her and they stomped out and went to eat somewhere else. And later, there's this really interesting moment where Robert Heinlein writes in a letter to Paul about Jenny's spirit, and he calls her his redheaded firecracker and stuff like that. It's really cute. It's really cute.
And you're gonna have all these on, and you're gonna have all these on display.
Yeah. I mean, the letters between the Andersons and the Heinleins, I think, are the most interesting thing. There are some letters between Heinlein and like Buzz Busby and Ruth Berman. He sent this adorable letter to Ruth after the convention. But yeah, this was really the moment in CCon when the Andersons and the Heinleins got to know each other and became friends. And some of the things that hadn't some of the things that are going to be on display haven't been discussed publicly before, I think, is what I'll say. There was,
well,
a little spicy.
as I was saying, the Pacificon folder has things like letters from Don Wollheim.
Oh, wow.
And a whole set of correspondence with Doc Smith.
Oh, nice.
What I like best about this display is how people have just embraced it. Like when we took Karen's diaries to her daughter Astrid and said, "Are you okay that we publish these?" And she's like, "Yes, go for it. And by the way, do you want to use my dad's Hugo that he won that year?" And so it's just been a lot of people getting excited about this exhibit.
Yep.
And
Astrid,
again, in 8 weeks.
Yeah. Astrid and I grew up together to some extent in fandom because the Andersons lived in Orinda, California, which was the east side of the East Bay in the San Francisco area, and I was growing up in the San Francisco area. We both worked on conventions together in 69, 70, 71, along with Jeff Sturgeon, who is an artist who is currently active and working on stuff about Bigfoot, who's been on this program several times.
And she's also bringing in some costumes for our costume exhibit as well, because she was a big costumer.
I still remember the costume that they did that Karen and Astrid did at the 1969 Worldcon, the Bat and the Bitten, which was one of those convention costumes that you remember for decades. Bear Woman 57 over in the chat commented that it feels so intimidating to go to a con as a newbie.
I saw that. I'm glad it's still going, though. It helps the more people that you meet and the more people that you talk to, and then you start recognizing them and they recognize you back.
But this is why I like volunteering, is because I have a reason to talk to people. And I have people that I get to know, and we actually spend enough time together without having to do the ice-breaking stuff, because the ice-breaking stuff has been done by the job that we're doing.
And then you get invited to all the staff parties and staff gatherings too, which helps.
Yep.
The Dead Dog post-con party is a fun place to be if you've been working nonstop for 10 days.
Yeah, and it's very easy to over-volunteer.
Yes.
As you say, working nonstop for 10 days. There have been conventions where I literally got very little sleep over the entire convention because there was a convention where we were inventing the idea of operations and how it would work. And I had a dealer's table and I spent very little time at the table, but neither did Mike Walsh, who later chaired a convention in the DC area.
Well, the 5-2-1 rule applies to staff as well, which is 5 hours of sleep, 2 meals, and 1 shower every day.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, 3-2-1 now. I don't know. That's a
5-2-1 is
the 3.
Yes. 5-2-1 is actually a minimum. It's not a goal.
Yeah, nobody wants to interact with me on 3 hours of sleep. Like, I'm gonna have to do more than that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
go ahead.
This was actually my first Worldcon. I was going to say about volunteering and being a newbie. I've done like Star Trek conventions and things like that in the past, but as far as Worldcon, this was my first one. And because it's going to be in Southern California next summer, I thought, well, I'll get involved, with the Seattle one. And it's been really cool to get to know all the Seattle folks, all the Seattle fans and organizers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I used to say that I have friends on 5 continents from working on conventions. I could go to any large city and find somebody who I wanted to visit.
Yeah.
And it's, after a while, it gets overwhelming.
Yeah, I did want to say, going back to the sleep thing, that a little insider's view of this job is the fact that I had 4 hours sleep last night. And that's because I was answering emails until midnight, and then I went to bed, and at 4 a.m. I woke up and I thought, I need to put a garbage can in the garage for the wristbands. And I was awake. There was my brain, and I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this, I need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps I'll go nap after this and get my 5.
Yes, well, the thing about the 5 is that it should be continuous.
What?
Because,
no, nobody said that.
Because the way sleep works is not, sleep is not something you can do episodically and have it be as effective.
Yes, I know.
That's a physiological problem. I'm also a massage therapist, so I know about things like this.
Oh, wow. Do you want to volunteer your time in the exhibit hall at all over the next few years?
Yeah.
I've been known to do that.
Oh.
I'll guarantee to give you a few moments of support that way.
I will find you a space.
Tuesday or Wednesday after everybody gets their exhibits and everything fancy put together. Yeah.
Yes. So one of the things about volunteering is that usually it involves long periods of boredom followed by moments of total activity.
And
if you're volunteering for Reg, that's not true. As Liam comments that there was a great documentary on PBS about the whole fan convention subculture. I haven't heard about that. And if you have any idea where we could find it, Liam, I'd love to see more in the...
Yeah, I'd love to watch that too.
Yeah. There were a group of people at Sasquatch and various other conventions who were working on a documentary about Terry Pratchett that I wish had actually gotten finished.
There were some people walking around NorwestCon last year that put something out, and I can't remember where it was, but I think it showed up on PBS for a minute. I'll look that up and see if I can send it to you.
Yeah, there's a Neil Gaiman documentary called Notes from Underground, which features a bunch of people being interviewed at NorwestCon and various other conventions.
Oh, cool.
As far as I know, it's never been on DVD, but I've got it on VHS because I was one of the people in it.
Yeah, rip PBS.
Yes. PBS. I don't think PBS is going to die,
Right.
but the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, we can rip.
I can't hear that. I can't hear that word without that name without thinking of Sesame Street, which is heartbreaking. You know?
Good.
Oh,
Bob just put the link in the chat for the documentary. Yes, he is performing the function of, here, let me Google that for you.
excellent.
Which is a useful thing. So, what are your plans? Are you planning to keep volunteering? Are you planning to keep doing stuff in more conventions?
Well, as for myself, I took a year off of the exec team for NorwestCon just because I knew that it was going to be, as they were ramping up, this was going to be all consuming. But absolutely, there's no way I couldn't. It's my family at this point, right? I was telling somebody that WorldCon is my side piece, but NorwestCon is my long-term relationship. So so I'll be going back for sure. And then you know, I've been going to small cons. I'm going to go. I'm trying to get to Sweden this year in December. I would like to keep on helping with the World Cons because it is a little microcosm that's unlike any other convention. And I'm on a board for ethics for WizFizz coming up. I got on that board, and let's see, I'm a Hugo finalist this year, so who knows where that's going to go, right? Forward. So
yes.
How about you, Mary? You said LA already.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't filled out my volunteer form yet for Los Angeles. That's been on my to-do list, and it keeps getting knocked down to the bottom of my to-do list after, like, you know, writing labels for things in the exhibits. But
you've got priorities this
yeah, I
week.
know. I like after Seattle, I'll be able to turn attention to that. And I mean, it would be cool to do some. I mean, I'm they probably already have this in the works, the LA folks. But you know, maybe if they are already doing a kind of exhibit on the history of four, I guess, LA cons so far. Maybe I could get involved in helping with that. They'll be a lot closer to the Eaton collection, so I won't be the only one digging through boxes. Get those LA people to drive out to Riverside now.
Yeah, maybe the shipping costs will be a little less horrific.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Well, Bruce Pell's widow is still around and can definitely help pull out interesting things because Elaine knows an awful lot about, and she's been volunteering forever too.
That would be great. That would help with the 80-something boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody who knows where to find things.
Well, his second wife, his first wife, Diane, was the two of them had a divorce party, which is the subject of Larry Niven's short story, What Can You Say About Chocolate-Covered Manhole Covers, which features a whole bunch of fans in it in not so clever, not so plastic disguises. But
with no peanut butter.
No peanut butter, though. No. I remember that. I remember that show. I was at that convention. I was working on The Masquerade when Scott Shaw showed up as his cartoon character, the Turd, which involved covering himself with chunky peanut butter. And he did not realize, and nobody realized, that human body heat is enough to make peanut butter really runny, which is where that no peanut butter thing comes from.
Well, talk about history. Wow, you were literally in a historic moment.
Yeah. Well, there's also the lime jello in the bathtub, and there are many of these stories. And as I say, the fan history panel on Wednesday is going to talk a lot about the stories, the various people who are there. But one of the things that I did for Con Jose was the following year's convention runs the Hugo Losers Party, most conventions, and I needed door guards to manage the door for the Hugo Losers Party in 2001. And I decided that I'd get some people who were really amazingly good and knew most of the people. So I had Bruce Pells and Teresa Nielsen Hayden sitting there being the door guards. And Teresa is legendary. Bruce was legendary. And they both had so much fun talking that when I tried to get someone to replace them, they refused to allow anyone else to take it over because they were just having too much fun sitting there together and talking with everybody and keeping out people like the chair of that year's convention.
I was a door guard at Glasgow after party, so I had a little bit of that power myself last year.
Yeah. Yes, it's you can end up doing all sorts of interesting things, and you actually, as I say, get to meet the fascinating people. My partner, Karen, KG Anderson, really likes volunteering at conventions because, among other, and many of the younger writers that she deals with on a regular basis think it's strange that she wants to volunteer. But when she's being somebody opening the elevator for people because you need a key to get into the elevator, she gets to meet all the editors. She gets to meet all the people who she's wanting to sell stories to and chat with them and is doing something nice for them. So they notice her and they connect with her. Doing volunteering at convention is a great way to advance your career.
And that is actually on our volunteer list, is somebody to help open the elevators for the parties at the Sheraton Hotel for Worldcon After Dark. So
yeah,
let me know.
Theo Williams comments in the chat that his first convention activity was getting into an argument with Harlan Ellison, later turned into a delightful acquaintance.
I have a Harlan Ellison story too from CCon. Karen Anderson was filking at 2 a.m. in her hotel room, and Harlan Ellison burst in screaming at her, made her move to a different room. She got chased out of her own room by Harlan Ellison. And then the next day, though, he apologized. She was out swimming in the pool, and he yelled from his balcony or something across the courtyard. And she said, "Wow, I can't believe he apologized. Harlan Ellison is actually becoming a more likable person."
Yes. Harlan was an enfant terrible in the 50s and 60s.
That's the nicest story I've ever read about Harlan Ellison.
Well, I really liked Harlan. Harlan was a great guy. And in fact, my Karen and I did a piece for Locus about readings for science fiction conventions, about science fiction writers doing readings and how to do it. And we interviewed 4 people who are really excellent at doing readings. One of them was Harlan. We talked for about an hour with him. This was after his stroke, so he wasn't going out or anything, but we were doing it over the phone. And the minute we finished the interview, Karen turned to me and said, "Go away," and sat down and wrote one of her first professionally sold stories, a story she sold to Mike Resnick, because she had Harlan's voice in her head and wanted to capture that as one of the characters. And Harlan said such things as, "Always remember, the audience wants you to succeed." So he actually turned into a much more nice and interesting person. My first meeting of him was in 1969 at the Worldcon, where I was helping Quinn Yarbrough run the Cephala Suite, going around and finding authors for interviews. And I was looking for Fritz Leiber, and Harlan turned around to me and said, "Are you following me, kid?" And I said, "I can follow you, Harlan," and just went off to do what I did. And Harlan always respected me after that. So much of life is about learning to not be awed by people who are famous.
Yeah, because they're just people. Just people like the rest of us. Mm-hmm.
They put on their pants both legs at a time, just like me. Wait. But yeah, we do this because we love it. It really is important to remember that we are creating what we want to see in the world. What I want to see in the world is more people working together. So to create a Worldcon is to take a bunch of people from literally all over the world and meld them into a team that produces fun for not just themselves, but for a bunch of other people who haven't yet figured out that it's more fun to work on something than it is to just attend. And I want to try and get people recognizing that the fun is in the doing rather than in the seeing.
And it is a little selfish on my part too, because my favorite people in the world are smart, geeky people. So the fact that we can bring them all together, and I've always liked throwing parties too. So
yeah, and the conventions have changed an awful lot since I was going to them. Since I started going to them, the first Worldcon I went to was the first one where they started consistently being over 1,000 people, and now there are regionals that are well over 1,000 people, like NorwestCon.
Yeah, we hit 2,000 easily.
Back in the early days, as at CCon, for example, conventions had a single track of programming. The multi-track programming starts in 1970 with a Jerry Jacks convention called CEFCON 70, which did what they called at the time three-ring circus programming. And Jeff Sturgeon, who is you checked in over in the chat earlier on, who I mentioned as an artist, was working on those conventions with me back then. So, I was there when multi-track programming started. And it's
CCon only had
how big it's
people.
Yeah. But look what it accomplished.
Oh yeah, I mean,
and now there are more than 300 people on the program.
Oh yeah, there's over 1,000 programming items. I think something like 859 panelists, and that's just a number I'm kind of pulling out of my head, so I could be wrong. But yeah, a ton.
Yeah, if you wanted to see everything, you couldn't.
There is going to be a robust virtual component with a lot of streaming rooms and such, so that you can. Some of it's going to be saved, I believe, on our YouTube channel, and so I highly recommend, even if you're in your hotel room and you're tired, checking out the virtual and seeing what you can make.
Just a couple of years ago, I found out that much of the program for the 1968 Worldcon had been taped by KPFA, which was a radio station, and I'd known that there was one item. People had known that there was one item, but I actually went through the listings that they had of everything that they taped that year and found that there were 10 program items that they had in the archives, which had never been digitized. So I ended up paying for them to be digitized, and some of them are now up on YouTube for the fan history channel that Joe Siclari, Edie Stern, Mark Olson do. They're going to be the people who are with me on the fan history panel.
I did not know that existed. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah. If you need to, I have actually CDs of them, which I bought. So if I can find them for you.
I've been so grateful to FANAC, fanac.org, with all of their digitized fanzines and photos and so much stuff on FANAC. I mean, just kind of digging through it. It's just amazing how much they've got documented there.
I'm taking some stuff down for their fan history scanning archives. I just was helping some people clear out part of a collection and discovered NorwestCon 2 through 5 program books and a large batch of West Winds from that period.
That reminds me. So Kathy Bond and I went and dug through. I don't know if you know Michael Sidtrack, but he's got a bunch of archives. And we went and dug through his boxes, and I found this NorwestCon 2 program book signed by some amazing people. I'm just gonna stumble my way through here, but this is a treasure. So I was scanning it for it, but yeah, I'm taking a bunch of stuff that we found to FANAC as well.
What's the cover of that one look like?
There's number
Okay.
3.
Oh, I think Michael Hanscom might have sent me a scan of some pages from that, maybe.
Yeah, probably. He's
Yes, there's
our
number.
assistant
Okay.
historian.
Yeah.
Really invested in getting that going.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I ended up getting was a program book from the 1946 Worldcon, which was on display in Chicago, which is signed by about 30 or 40 people.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
The Eaton has the 1939 one. The program book from the very first Worldcon, and it's, I mean, I've seen photos of it, but the original one has this like gold lame kind of cover that is just it's just beautiful.
And the second one had a silver paper cover.
I wanted to bring the original to Seattle, but the librarian was like, "Mary, that's priceless. No." That's not
I've seen them sold, so that's not priceless. There are copies out there, but Alva Rogers, whose correspondence file I pulled out to show you a second ago, did an illustration of Cthulhu that Heritage Auction Company recently sold for over $1 million.
Wow.
You know, and I remember just to sit on his wall. So I visited it several times.
Wow.
But there is so much out there that we don't know what's going to become important. We don't know what's going to be interesting to somebody 50 years down the road. We may know to some extent, but we don't know for sure. And so mostly what happens is the stuff that's not interesting gets thrown out, and then somebody wants it, and then it can't be found, and then it gets scarce.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what leads to a lot of things becoming expensive. But still, the problem is finding somebody who would want to buy it. I have literally boxes of fanzines, but nobody's particularly interested in most of them. Oh, there it is. Now, at the time this was done,
Oh, nice.
this was the first lexicon of science fiction fandom.
When is that from?
This is from 1946, I believe. 44. And as you can see, it's a limited edition of 250 copies. And this copy, most of them had prepared for with the name of the person in it. And this answers the interesting question of what copy of Encyclopedia belonged to his name has gone out of my head. The fellow who wrote Ah, Sweet Idiocy, Francis Townend Laney, who wrote a thing excoriating fandom for being full of homosexuals and all that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
But also told a whole bunch of stories about what fandom was like in the early 40s. And it turns out that the earliest copies in this were given to the people who collated it in the order of how many hours they worked on collation. So, and that's an amusing thing. But, you know, nobody thought this would be particularly valuable to the world, but linguists are really interested in this sort of minor linguistic history. So it's a book that has a whole bunch of people who would go and look for it for various reasons.
And like original copies of books too. I mean, one of the things that I was desperately trying to find was an original copy of A Canticle for Leibowitz, which won Best Novel in 1961. And you know, the library has one, but even that was kind of hard to dig up. But you know, you go onto eBay and they're like $500, $1,000, you know, for an original copy. So yeah, hold on to those first editions.
Oh, I have
Like
books
whatever,
about that.
especially whatever wins. There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially if you can get it signed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have some unsigned stuff that's fairly valuable. My father was buying The Lord of the Rings when it came out, ordering copies from England. So I have 2 out of the 3 volumes of The Lord of the Rings in first printing, and those are fairly expensive these days.
I would
But-
want to touch it. I don't care how much it's worth. I would just want to touch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is so much stuff out there, and mostly I've accumulated this stuff, the stuff that I have, which people say is legendary. It's just stuff I got. Accumulated it by buying stuff I thought was interesting, and not by spending a lot of money.
Mhm. Yeah, I've gotten some things on eBay just recently to put in the exhibit. I mean, I got the original, the analog from December 1960 that Paul Anderson's The Longest Voyage was in. And I've just been reading it straight out of this book. I mean, being really careful with the spine. I'm just kind of like reading it. But it's been so much fun to just read it out of the original analog.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I find it so much more fun to read a first edition, because then I have the sense of it being the way the author would have seen it. There's
Exactly, yeah.
And
there's
actually,
a sense of mana to it.
somebody just donated 4 boxes of analogs and Asimovs from the 50s and 60s for the freebies lounge. So those are going to be showing up on the freebies table. I know.
Yep.
I'm going to be like, I'm going to have to look.
How early can people go over there and grab these?
Most of those magazines, if they're not in absolutely pristine condition, are available fairly cheap because nobody wants to buy them.
Well, yeah, this was like $12 or so, and I couldn't believe that. I was like, "What?" And yeah, I got some Ed Emshwiller covers too.
Oh yeah,
from 1960 because he won Best Artist, and things that weren't like super expensive. And science fiction from I think February 1960.
FNSF,
Yeah.
So it's been fun to just buy things, but then I got to worry about how humid my house is for storing things. So.
You don't have to worry about that for storing things for a month or 2. You do have to worry about it for 10 years.
Right.
Yeah. So Bob is coming back to tell us that we have to go away soon.
I'll put on my hat of command.
Yes.
Hey, this is the pug.
Yes.
If ShyCon was your first Worldcon, you may have met my pug down. I had a dealer's table down there where I had a new release with Jim Wright and David Gerald.
Oh, cool.
They would come down, and me and my pug were sitting down there, and my pug is a service dog, bless her heart. She's getting old, but she was happy then. So you guys are obviously, the enthusiasm comes across. When I first started doing cons, the first impression I always had was, where have you guys been all my life? I mean, this is my family. This is my people. And I felt like I was home. And so every con has its own flavor. And you just got to love it. Like Northwest Con and Oricon, 2 great Northwest cons. As different as the day is long, but just the joy of being able to go to conventions and finding people of like mind and soul, and no matter what room you walk into, what table you sit down at, you're going to find people you can talk to and enjoy being around for the most part. It's a good thing. And the focus you're putting here on some of the historical elements is going to be appreciated by a whole lot of people. And it's kind of cool. Like, for example, Tom, I did not know that you chaired San Jose, which was my first Worldcon.
Ah, there you go.
And as a dealer, it was so cool to be able to hand books to people from Japan who were great fans of the writer who lived in Washington, D.C. or in New York, and carry on just a fun conversation.
Mhm.
It is community at its most basic. So excellent. And that said, next week is going to be our Cliff Winnig week. We know it's next week is going to be. Oh, we're going to be at Worldcon next week.
Yes, we are. Mhm.
Mm-hmm. I haven't actually booked a guest for next week because when you're at Worldcon doing something like a podcast, it is so fluid that we'll be taking the podcast back to my hotel because that's the only way I'm going to get enough bandwidth to do this thing. Uh,
I want to sneak in something here before we go,
I
which
could
is
tell you
Michelle, you have a cat.
Yes, yes. One of many back there. Loki. Yep.
I'm going to reach over here and bring over
Oh
Penny
yeah.
the pirate kitten.
you disturbed that cat.
Yes, she
You
likes
didn't
being
even
up.
wince when those claws dug into your shoulder.
Oh, it's a heavy shirt. Annie's one-eyed. Her name is Ann,
Aw. Aw.
but she's a great cat. I figured we could bring her in for a second to say hi
Oh,
to
you
your cat.
I pity we didn't bring in Earl. He was our lucky cat. He climbed up on a transformer pole and lost an eye and a leg.
Oh no.
Oh, the zap went right through him. Uh, but he too was a one-eyed cat.
All right.
You got to follow Karen to keep hearing the stories of this cat. It's been fun. How's he liking his little house outdoors?
The two new cats. Annie just has a little catio with mesh, but we have two new cats who are half Savannah cat, which means they're quarter Serval, and they're huge. And they have a new catio that they are just loving. And there's going to be a catio tour same weekend as Worldcon, and people are going to come over and meet our cats for that. Yes,
Oh, that is a pleasure because nobody can follow Karen or work with her without knowing that she has
she won an award from the Cat Writers Association.
she likes
The
cats.
story of Mr. Tippy. MrTippy.com, MRTIPPY.com.
Yeah. And as Elizabeth Ann Scarborough well knows, I hate cats.
Mm-hmm.
But we have fun. That said, guys, thank you for showing up. It was always good to see the. I see a whole bunch of new links showed up on the documentaries. It turns out there's probably a huge amount of video out there for cons and everything. Someday, some bright young board person is going to collect them all and make something fantastic. And that said, thank you both. I will look forward to seeing you guys at the convention. I'm mostly going to be wandering around um, looking at stuff.
Cool.
So it'll be fun. And thank you, Tom, for hosting.
Totally glad to. Thank you
Right,
both
so
for coming. Any last things you want to say?
Yeah, if you see us wandering around the convention center, say hi for sure. We'd love to talk.
Well, I will. I don't know if you'll still be conscious by the time at that time, but
I'm going to get more than 3 hours of sleep. I don't know about everybody else.
Yeah.
yeah, it would be so much fun if you could really bank sleep.
Yeah.
But that period of time you're going to try and bank it is the time when you're going to find out that the hotel has changed the rules for what you can do in the green room and your hospitality suddenly needs a new permit, and why are you guys trying to throw a pole dancing party in the the exhibit hall? You'll have plenty to keep you busy.
Well, one
Yeah.
of my favorite things is the dances, which unfortunately go until 2 a.m. So,
Well,
unfortunately, so yeah, sleep
Yep.
is for the weak.
I know. It reminds me of some interesting times at Norwestcon. So you
Yeah.
guys take care, and